Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name is Serge.
And my name is James.
And blue is the colour. Spending
Whoa,
money is the game.
None of this blue is the colour shit on my podcast, mate.
Spending
Seriously.
money is the game, James.
They're definitely doing that. But I already know that Ted's got his defence ready to say, listen, let me tell you, over the last 5 years, we're the 8th highest for net spend or something. So it's been coming. I just can't wait, Ted, till 5 years from now. You have to sell every fucker to level out the FFP, mate.
Keep on crying. I'm loving this.
Go on, introduce him.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I should, shouldn't I?
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 people that might not know.
Yeah, 1 or 2 maybe. We're joined by our Chelsea correspondent, Ted, at Rotation FPL. How are you, mate?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Good. Just to get it out there's from my side, there's no kind of bitterness or thinking you're going to buy the title and none of that stuff, because we're beyond those days, right? When Abramovich first came in and Chelsea were spending a lot of money, I think at that time people were like, okay, you know what, you're buying the title. But since then, the amount of money that City has spent and United has spent and other clubs have gone out and spent, I don't think now anyone sees it as that anymore. I don't know if James would agree, but I just don't see it now as anything other than normal. Like, look at what PSG have done. Look at what Real Madrid do regularly, breaking transfer records and all that kind of stuff. You're going to spend the money, just spend it. Sod it.
I don't think you've been on Twitter, mate. It's been a different story on there.
I don't.
I absolutely
don't. It's why I've had a good week this week. I'm chilling because I stay off Twitter.
I eat it up. I've been loving seeing fans crying over this. It is beautiful for Chelsea fans.
How do I feel about it? I think if you go back 15 years ago, then I think it felt like that at the time. Actually, yeah, I agree with you, Serge. What Chelsea have been doing, I haven't really blinked at yet. And the other thing is, and it's probably the best place to start in terms of the squad before we get onto the new team, we've called this Correspondent Week. We could have called it They Still Haven't Bought a Fucking Goalkeeper Yet, because we've managed to get it onto nearly every podcast, I think. So, and my comment, Ted, has been, I don't care who they buy. If they don't buy a goalkeeper, you ain't going to win nothing.
Yeah, I'm pretty resigned to the fact now that I think Kepa's going to be playing at least some minutes this season. That seems to be the Chelsea's goal at the moment. Is even if we do buy a new goalkeeper, it'll be someone that pushes Kepa to get better. They haven't given up on it yet, and at the very least, they want to be able to turn or get a decent return from what they paid originally. So, in terms of the keepers we're looking at, they're not going to be a crazy world-class keeper at all.
So, does that rule you out the title then? A serious question.
Yes, I'd say if we're bringing in a top keeper, I'd say I'd put us up for battling against those top 2. Without it, I think we're looking to close the gap significantly to second. I think third should definitely be our goal. But yeah, you can't get in the top 2 when you're conceding as many goals as we do. I mean, there was no one conceded more goals away from home than us last season. It's just ridiculous. You can't do that if you're trying to win a title.
And yet in the article you wrote for us, what was the stat? Second best for shots conceded away from home or something?
Yeah, we in terms of you look at expected goals, you look at shots in the box conceded, all of that. We are top 3-ish for everything, absolutely everything. So you've got to put a good bit of blame on Kepa's back there. If you look at his stats, I mean, they're dreadful. And the expected goals conceded, we fare pretty well. But as soon as you take into account the save percentage that Kepa makes, it's horrific, utterly horrific. They just can't continue.
You got loads of confidence in him, then that's really great to hear, mate. I mean, I'm obviously sitting here thinking, don't buy a goalkeeper, mate, because I might still have a chance of catching you. Otherwise, 1 to 11, you're better in every department. And then I think if you did buy a serious goalkeeper, then generally you come into the conversation for the title, I think, because you've just gone for it. We know officially at the time of recording that Havertz is not done, but we've all known for a couple of weeks that it is done.
Yeah, he's 100% coming to the club.
Who stood out? Who stands out for you as the best signing from the lot, Ted?
I really like Timo Werner. I was really happy when we secured him. I didn't think it was going to be a transfer we'd make, and I think he's got quite a bit of excitement in the sort of FPL circles. But I think he can go even better than what people are saying. He's a seriously good goal scorer, and that's what we need, because we've created so many chances last season, and they just weren't converted. If we have someone that converts those chances, we are he's not a 9.5 mil forward. That's all I'll say.
I might be in the minority where I think you can get away with a ropey Kepa because look, Chilwell coming in at left back. I don't know if Alonso was particularly bad or good, or Emerson was bad or good, but the centre backs did make a few mistakes, even when you played against us and Yarmolenko came in, that Rudiger letting him in and stuff. I think Thiago Silva being in there will give you that little bit more stability. Now you've got Chilwell in at left back as well. So even if like a third of the mistakes from the defenders, the central defenders, whether it's Christensen or Rudiger, are cut out, you've reduced your goal count there. You paid a lot of money for Kepa, right? So there must have been a goalkeeper in there somewhere that someone has seen. I don't know. I think you can get away with winning games 3-2, 4-3. Look, Newcastle did it when they came close to the title a long time ago. It'll give you a few heart attacks along the way, but I think you can get pretty damn close. And the challenge is going to be getting all the new players to gel quickly for Frank, who's not an experienced manager. When you've got so many new signings, that's always a difficulty for a new manager.
Definitely. I mean, just touching on the defence quickly, I mean, we did have a big problem with centre-backs making mistakes. And in fact, Rudiger was one of the worst culprits of that. But Chilwell coming in, his defensive game isn't his strongest. It's a lot better than what Alonso was. Alonso was caught out of position, he must be more times than anyone else. I hated watching him play. But Thiago Silva, he brings a leadership that we need. He brings a big winning mentality. But he's still not the fastest centre-back. There's still going to be a lot of problems going on there. I saw it against Arsenal when Azpilicueta got caught out by Aubameyang pretty much every 5 minutes, and that drove me mad. There's still going to be problems in our team. Looking at Chilwell, one of our biggest problems at set pieces is not following men, just being caught marking themselves, basically. And Chilwell this season has been doing the exact same thing. So that's not going to solve that problem, even though he is pretty decent in the air. So we're going to keep seeing the same sort of problems unless they're worked on soon. And I just can't see, when you're making those sort of mistakes, you've got Kepa in goal, who doesn't command his 6-yard box, doesn't give the confidence to any of the defenders, anything like that. How can you challenge the top two when you're in that sort of position? It's all well and good having a superb attack force. I genuinely believe it's one of the best in Europe now, once we get Havertz into that. But when we saw it against Sheffield United, right? Our attack didn't click, we ended up conceding multiple goals at the back. And you're going to lose games like that repeatedly unless you set the defence up. All of our good sort of title challenges have come when we've had a really strong back line. And that's what's missing at the moment.
I think to sum up, because of those defensive issues are still there, I think we'll come back to Thiago because I think it's a brilliant signing, actually. I would say right now, you're more likely to not finish in the top four and win the league, to sum it up. That would be my instinct. And I don't have a doubt particularly that you will finish top four. But I just think that jump is just too much at the moment with too many questions defensively, no matter how many goals you score. Because you're going to have 1 or 2 days in front of goal where they're not going to go in because everybody has them.
Yeah.
Even City do, even Liverpool do. You'll have them as well. And as good as these guys coming in, Werner, Ziyech, Havertz, they're like unquestionable, brilliant talents. We haven't seen it here yet. And I think we all generally think they're all going to do quite well, but we don't know it yet. And it might be that you might not see the best of all of them till the second season, for example. I think like what's happening now is we are at a point now where we can have a conversation and say, Chelsea are beginning to look like a team that's going to challenge for the title. Whereas this time last year, that wasn't on the board. We sat here, Ted, and to be honest, top four was like, that'll be unbelievable in Lampard's first season, not able to buy anyone, such a young squad, etc. Now, the pressure's completely different as well. And I wonder if, I know we've spoken about this already, if that's suddenly going to shift onto the manager a little bit as well. Because you said not everyone's happy with him, generally.
Yeah, there's a few fans. They're a bit quieter now, but there's been a few fans that have been quite critical of Lampard. They're not quite a fan of the defensive mistakes we've made this season and the sort of defensive performance. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a load of pressure on him now. I mean, he's been backed heavily. You've got to sort of
deliver
now, and it's the crunch time for him. I have no doubt he'll be able to do it, but yeah, you've got a completely fresh front line there, basically, apart from one. You've got 2 new defenders coming into the defensive line. Not that that'll make much difference because we rotated so heavily last season. It's a lot of change, but there's a big factor that, the coaches that we have are good at bringing players together. I've no doubt they're going to bring us into top 4, easy.
The psyche of it's so interesting though. This time last year, it would be amazing to finish top 4. This time this year, having finished 3rd, it's like now it would be a disaster almost to not finish top 4.
Last season we had a bunch of championship players, really, didn't we? We had Tammy Abraham, Tomori, Reece James, Mason Mount, all coming up from the championship. And you look at it and thinking, it's going to be tough to get these guys into a top 4 team. And you didn't even have to blink and they're already there. Mason Mount has looked nothing short of a Premier League player the whole season. So, who's to say that Lampard can't get this squad gelled quickly?
Back 4, Ted. Is that what you think? Back 4, generally?
Yeah, no, we won't play with a back 5 long term. That's a short-term fix because of problems.
Okay. What's the best back 4 now, in your opinion?
Chilwell left back, Thiago Silva centre back, alongside, I'm going to say Zuma for now. Could argue Rudiger, could argue Azpilicueta. And I'll go James at right back. Again, could easily go Azpilicueta there. He's probably our best defender. But we might touch on it later. But I can see a lot of space going down Chelsea's right wing, and I want James attacking that rather than Azpilicueta.
It's interesting because Azpilicueta, essentially, if we look at the players available in game week 1, are we assuming Giroud doesn't start game week 1? I take it now.
I don't know about that, to be honest.
Okay, he's not a long-term solution now anyway, right, even if he does start. Pulisic, we think, is injured. You basically only had 3 players from an FPL perspective who performed during the restart period. There's Giroud, Pulisic, and Azpilicueta. They're the only 3 basically who did anything. Now, Azpilicueta and Reece James are the 2 that are really getting spoken about in terms of, should we look at them defensively now? So what's your take on that? Because just hearing you say that would make me really know. I mean, Reece James is a great price, but it's scary, is how it feels.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't touch anything. Simple as that. Chelsea's defence is too dodgy at the moment. You need clean sheets. There's no question about that. If you're buying a defender or goalkeeper, they have to keep clean sheets. So just give them some time. Watch how they look. See how they're performing. As soon as you see some form building there, then sure, go ahead, buy. But right now, none of the defenders look particularly nailed. I'm sure Thiago Silva will be nailed. Chilwell will be nailed once he's back from injury. But until then, I'm not touching. Even if Reece James is nailed to start at the beginning because Azpilicueta's at left back.
All right, that's emphatic. And to be honest, that's how I feel about it as well. Serge, your thoughts?
Yeah, and they're not cheap either. I mean, they're 5.5.
Reece James at 5. I mean, if you played every week, mate.
I'd take Eric Dyer over Reece James, put it that way. I trust Mourinho's ability to keep a clean sheet over Reece James right now with the inconsistency. But I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about before we were speaking to you is this is the season where I do feel by October most of us will have triple Chelsea of some sort.
Wow.
A couple of attackers and maybe a defender, just because they're so cheap, James. I think they score a lot of goals, and these guys are 8.5, and even Werner at 9.5, I think is going to be great value. So I think we'll end up with at least double and possibly triple Chelsea. So maybe Reece James will come into the conversation then, but I'm a watch and wait on the Chelsea defence.
Yeah, I'd definitely consider Reece James down the line because the amount of crosses he put in last season was fantastic. He just needed someone to finish them off. Didn't have that last season. Tammy Abraham wasn't clinical towards the end of the season. Giroud's a bit mixed. It was good, but he wasn't exceptional. So long term, I definitely think he's better than Dyer. But I'll start the season with Eric Dyer in my defence.
Are you going to start with Dyer?
Yeah, I will probably.
Oh, so you changed your tune, haven't you?
Well, he's good. He's someone that I'd start the season with. Someone that I like at his price. But once you get going, Reece James at 5 mil is an absolute steal.
I loved it. He was making out like Dyer was an awful pick. Oh no, not Dyer. Oh yeah, he's in my squad. All right then, let's talk about these forward players. It's pretty exciting. Where are you at then? Chelsea assets. Who's in? I know you've definitely got someone in there, mate.
Yeah, James. Timo Werner is going to be the first name in my team. There's no question about that. He is 100% not a 9.5 mil forward. I don't know how they've got that price. It's just madness to me. He's going to score tons of goals this season. I've no doubt about it. He's 100% in. Everyone else has got question marks over, really.
Why is he worth the gamble at the start?
Because he's priced so ridiculously cheaply.
Isn't everybody in the game, mate?
I'm not too sure about that. I was expecting Werner to come in at sort of I don't know, 10.5, could even go a bit higher possibly. But his scoring rate in Germany is very good. It's easily top 10 in the world. It is absolutely
For
fantastic.
Werner to have been 10.5, you'd have then expected Aguero and Kane to maybe have been 11 and 11.5, right? So it's the differential between the most expensive forward being 10.5. Then I can understand Werner coming in 1 million cheaper at 9.5. It's relative to the price of the other strikers. But I'm with you, Ted. Like, I may even captain him in game week 1 because I know the majority of people are going to go with Aubameyang or Salah or Mane. And I feel like it's a good fixture. First game in, I reckon I can bank on him to score against Brighton away. So I feel like Werner could end up being, in the early weeks, quite a good differential captain. I think you played West Brom quite early, didn't you?
Game week 3.
Yeah. So for me, I've already earmarked Werner as captaincy for that.
The only problem I'd say about Werner is that he comes in at the same 0.5 more than Martial, is it? So if he doesn't do anything, game week 1, you know there's going to be a massive exodus of him from people switching over to United assets, and he's going to drop in value. And that's going to be a big problem because his ownership's so high at the moment.
Yeah, that's exactly what I can see as well. And that is genuinely, Ted is so spot on. One blank against Brighton, then they play Liverpool. Everyone wants to move to Manchester United. Panic. Yeah. And it would be a panic move at that stage because for me, Brighton are going to be a really improved team this year that I think will finish bang on roundabouts mid-table. So it's not a gimme fixture at the start like I think it might have been 6 months to a year ago or so. I mean, you drew there last year, didn't you, Ted? New Year's Day, I think. And you drew there in a friendly last week as well. Not that we should read anything into a friendly. But I think they're a decent side. I do think, yes, you can captain Werner on game week 1, but that point about the mass exodus in game week 2, I think is really spot on. I think there's a big possibility that will happen.
I wouldn't necessarily say that games like Liverpool are bad, though. He'd love to play against teams that give him a high line, and Brighton could well do that as well.
That's true.
Those games against, when he's got like a low block, that's when he's going to struggle to break them down. They don't suit his style. They're more sort of Giroud games. So I'm more worried against games maybe like Palace in week 4. That one could be one I'm a bit nervous about. The rest of them, though, I'm confident he will do well.
What do you think Havertz will come in at? Same as 8.5, similar to Pulisic and Ziyech?
It depends how much hype he's given. I've seen some people saying he's going to be sort of 8, 7.5. I can't see that. He's a really class player. I'd go... it's hard to put him at 9 because Son's at 9, and I wouldn't put him as high as Son. So I guess it'd have to be 8.5.
It'd be hard to put him higher than Pulisic, I think.
Pulisic comes in as proven in the Premier League, I guess. Yeah. But Havertz is the guy that's getting described as like the future of German football and the future Ballon d'Or winner. You know, he's a very good player. He's ready to explode. That's how I describe him, I think. I'm watching him.
I think the price tag will mean that we get a rare case here where someone's probably going to be overpriced, actually. Is my suspicion. With what we're talking, 90 million?
Yeah, it's a bit.
That's going to... You're talking about what the publicity is going to be like. Well, you're talking about what's going to clearly be, unless Messi moves, the biggest transfer of the summer, basically. That is probably going to get him priced a little bit higher than others. However, whatever price you think he will be, subtract 0.5, and that's what price he probably will be, right? I just think because of the value of the transfer fee, this might be one that gets overpriced, actually.
I think it's possible, but I think he could also be a serious sort of premium quality player.
He's
signed as Chelsea to be our world-class player, right? So it's only reasonable that you can see him perform at that sort of level. I think you're right about the price tag influencing what Fantasy Premier League priced him at. I think also, whether we like it or not, sort of Twitter hype does make a big difference because the Fantasy Premier League touts, they pay attention to that. They know what's going on. So I think
Bruno came in at 9, right? In the transfer window. Bruno Fernandes came in at 9 million. Was it 9.5? 9, I thought it was.
He's a different player, though.
Sure.
I prefer Havertz a lot more, to be honest.
I think I'd be surprised if it was more than 9. I think he'll be at 8.5 personally, but we'll see when he comes in.
I ain't got a clue. I'm tired of guessing what they're going to do with it. We'll deal with it when it comes around. But I think in terms of his adaptation to could he be a premium FPL asset, it's another one I'd want to watch. I've got this feeling, Ted, that I want to watch you. And one of the reasons for that centres around Pulisic not being available in game week 1, we think, at this stage. And to be honest, for me on the outside, he'd probably be the priority for me on what I know, because I think he's got gears he can go to on what I saw during that restart period. His price is very acceptable at 8.5 million. He's obviously not available game week 1. So I want to watch and see how you set up. Where do you think, I think the key question I want to know is, where do you think Werner will play game week 1?
I'm going to go on the limb here and say left wing, actually. I think the choice is either set up with... This is sort of working on the assumption that Havertz joins before game week 1, which is not set in stone at the moment, the way it's dragging on. But I can see him going number 10, and then that leaving either Mount or Hudson-Odoi to play left wing and Werner through the middle, or Giroud through the middle, or Tammy Abraham through the middle and Werner on the left. And I much prefer Werner on the left there. I think that's a lot better for us.
Is that where you want him to play?
Long term? No.
Yeah.
But for the start, yeah, that's what to go with.
Until Pulisic's fit, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, the front four, it just sounds like Pulisic left, Ziyech right, Havertz at 10, Werner up front.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds quite straightforward.
Yeah.
Sounds quite scary, mate, to be honest.
Well, no, don't get me wrong, yeah. But interestingly, all of a sudden, I wonder if you might have similar problems that we've seen Manchester United have, in the sense that there is a drop-off between, and Van der Beek might level that out a little bit now, there is a drop-off between the best 11 and what's behind. And these guys who were championship players last year who did exceptionally well for you, are they now going to be a drop-off? I mean, for example, where does Mason Mount now fit in? Does he go and play deeper?
Yeah, I mean, he could do. I think he's most likely looking possibly at rotational minutes now, which would be a huge shame, I think. I think it's a really big shame. But he may be competing with like sort of Havertz for number 10, and Havertz can push to like the right wing or up front. Werner can move around. All these players, by the way, have been signed because they're adaptable. They can play sort of anywhere. That's a deliberate move by Chelsea. So there's definitely a chance that we'll see a bit of rotation. I mean, Pulisic is not going to stay fit for an entire season. I can tell you that now. So as soon as he goes, then you've got Mount coming back in and everything. And these guys are very good. The one I'm more concerned about not getting minutes is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, actually. I think he's vastly talented, and I can't believe more clubs aren't being linked to him this transfer window, because I can't see where his minutes are going to come from now.
I think the problem would probably be what it'll cost, mate. Would be the problem. And where would he want to go as a player as well?
Well, I think he'll want minutes. I think that's important for him now, because he's sorely missing them off that injury, or injuries, I should say. So I think he could be possibly tempted away. Possibly he might be just a loan, but still, if I was a Premier League manager, I'm all over him at the moment.
I've wanted him for ages.
I'll have him.
I've wanted him for ages.
You don't count.
you want to make weight in that Declan Rice deal? Trust me. Do you
know what? He's got a point there, mate. Yeah, but you'll get Barkley, mate. You know it.
Come on, we don't even want to go there. We don't even want to go there. But it's look. Hudson-Odoi, Mount, Barkley, Loftus-Cheek, Gilmour. They're all gonna want minutes. And then you've got the double pivot or whatever you want. If you're playing Jorginho, Kovacic, Kante, you're going to pick 2 out of those 3. Who gets in? I almost feel for these guys now, these younger players, because they're not going to get the minutes. Yeah.
I'd go as far as to say our second 11 is good enough for top 6 football. It's looking serious. I really like it. It's such a talented little group there.
Ted, the way you're going, mate, it'll be top 4 because that's the team you just used last season, mate.
Yeah,
the way you're going.
Yeah.
So
who's that? Alonso, Rudiger, Christensen. Is that top 6?
As Piliqueta, Caballero.
I don't know. The back line's probably
Ropey.
3, mate. Yeah. But I see where you're going with those. I mean, those players are interesting at like 5.5, 6 million. Hudson-Odoi, if he was going to get minutes, or even Loftus-Cheek, they're good prices if they went away on loan to another club for sure, but not at Chelsea, no way.
Yeah. I'll give a quick shout to Conor Gallagher as well, because it looks like he might go on loan to Palace. I'm quietly hoping Fantasy Premier League might be kind and put him at 4.5. But if they do, he's
they won't.
Interesting. You know it won't. But
no, anybody
is he's interesting, to be honest.
Anybody, this is a rule of thumb with FPL. Anybody doesn't get a price at the start, it's the opposite theory. 0.5 more. Look at Matty Cash gone to Villa today, 5 million. Yeah, all right, okay, thanks for that. Cheers. Back in the bin, 4.5. I might have got on the phone to Adam Hotcroft and said, "What do you think, mate? Not 5 million. It's not a conversation." So that invariably happens with new players. Well, I also think it may well happen with Havertz and that as well. James Rodriguez, if he comes, it will all be overpriced, I should imagine. What's your feelings on Ziyech, Ted? Because he's a player, obviously, I've seen play against my team and do some damage. He's a special talent as well.
Yeah, no, he's really good. He's going to be a serious creative force for us next season. I'm looking forward to watching him play. In terms of Fantasy Premier League, I'm not close to picking him because he's not the sort of player I like. He's going to be picking up tons of assists. He'll get some goals as well, but I'm not here to buy people to get assists. Because the amount of times I'm going to watch him play and see him get the assist or something like that, yeah, it's just not for me. That I'm not going to waste my time with that. Lovely price, but there's goal scorers in this Chelsea team I want more.
Okay, so from your opinion, are you just on Werner at the moment?
Yeah, Werner's the only one. I'm sure I'll get Pulisic fairly soon, but until then, yeah, there's Werner.
That's inspired to take a step back. You obviously said he will get injured at some stage. Is that just because of the experience in the first year?
No, his injury
or...
record is dreadful. It's really bad. I can't remember what it is, but it's some ridiculous amount of muscle injuries in the last 3 years. It's not good. So I can see him missing games all over the place. But when he does play, I think last season he averaged, it was just over 5 points per appearance, and that's despite a really slow start. That's yes, seriously good.
There was a very quiet period in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. That was only beaten by Alonso in our team. But he's a real good player.
I stuck him in my team after the restart, and it was one of those where I was ready and happy to move him on, but he just kept chipping away with the returns, and I just couldn't bring myself to sell him because he kept returning for me. As soon as he's fit, I'm going straight back for Christian Pulisic. I may give him a game or two, depending on what your fixtures are like and if there's any kind of European stuff in the way. But as soon as it's a clear run, I'm going straight back for Christian Pulisic with Werner, and then it leaves me one other slot for a Chelsea player. If the likes of Ziyech or Havertz are tearing it up, I don't mind tripling up on Chelsea in much the same way that we tripled up on Man United at the back end of last season as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
I'd be keen enough to... Go on, Ted, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing, that's all.
All right, no, I would be keen if they're both fit, hearing what Ted's saying about Ziyech there, which is not too far from my thinking, although I'm telling you, he's a gorgeous player to watch technically, Ziyech. I would pay the extra 0.5 for Pulisic. Because I think if you get 38 games out of Pulisic, you're looking at potentially a 15-goal, 20-goal a season player, actually. The thing is, with the injuries, don't be put off by it. We know every year at the start that Aguero is going to get injured at some point. It's a certainty every season, but we don't get put off by him if he's got great fixtures or anything, do we? So, and I think Pulisic, his value, you can go up or down quite easily if you need to. There's other, you could move straight to Ziyech, for example, immediately, couldn't you? Or up to Son if you've got the funds, whatever you want to do. So Pulisic is the one. If he was fit, I think I'd start with him, Ted, would be my instinct. I'd find a way. So I'm keen to watch that. As I'm keen to watch you and see how you're going to set up and play tactically in two very different games. Brighton, you'll have more of it, but you could be able to counter on them. They may counter on you as well. Liverpool is a bastion of a game. And then you've got West Brom, which on paper looks straightforward, but it doesn't always work out that way with newly promoted sides at the start. It's often more challenging than it should be. So it's certainly a watching brief for the first two for me. Even then, I'm a little bit concerned that Pulisic comes in and suddenly it changes again. Whereas, if say Werner does do very well too often and he shifts position, I'm likely to be of the mindset of, I don't know what happens now. Is that better or worse? Now, in theory, Pulisic coming to the team and providing for him should only be better. But at that stage, I'm not sure necessarily it will be. I think one of the challenges he might find actually, Ted, is that he might find it a little bit more difficult in a roundabout way to get in behind teams in our league, actually.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I was a bit concerned about our team sort of drifting towards the left a bit. We've got quite a few players that want to get down that left wing. Werner's sort of got a tendency towards the left. Pulisic will be playing on the left. Mount, if he's starting, likes to drift left a bit. And we know that Ziyech sort of wanders wherever he wants during a game. So I'm a little bit concerned that it might get a bit compact. Werner has to be the sort of player that sort of finds his own space, is then picked out by someone like Ziyech, and then will attack with it. So I'm a bit worried that if we start getting a bit too compact, especially if there's like a low block and trying to press into the penalty area, I can see it being a bit of a concern there.
You struggled in them games last year.
Yeah, no, we 100% did. Fortunately, we've got the player now that can break it down. I think Ziyech is the sort of player that will play that pass that you need. He is the sort of player that can sometimes be frustrating to watch. You'll see him quite often take a shot from range, but he shouldn't, or play that sort of defence-splitting 40-yard pass when there's a far simpler one on that'd be just as effective. but he's the player that will open those doors that need to have opened. And that's something we've missed recently.
I was going to say the flip side of that is he's a trier, and because of him, things happen. That's the flip of that. So, yeah, he'll frustrate. Does he remind you of Mahrez at all? Because that's when I saw him at Ajax, that's who it reminded me of straight away in terms of that left foot, happy to come inside, happy to go on the outside. He doesn't run directly at people in quite the same way, but I think he's like his body shape, the way he shoots when he cuts inside and stuff, really reminds me of Mahrez.
Yeah, no, I can see that. He's horrific to try and defend against him because he will just pop up all over the place. But yeah, I think he's a serious talent, and on set pieces as well, probably, which is an added benefit.
Yes,
that's one of the questions I was going to ask you.
Was on him, yeah.
Is that in post restart? I feel like Willian benefited a lot from Pulisic winning penalties and fouls and free kicks and what have you. Does what happens with set pieces come into your decision making on who you go with? I mean, is it a given that Werner's going to be on pens?
It's not necessarily a given. I'd expect him to. I don't think Havertz has ever missed a penalty in his career, actually. But he also hasn't taken a huge amount, so read into that what you will. But if I was sort of like 50-50 or something, then sure, why not? But I mean, in my mind, I've got Werner in my team, I've got Pulisic in my team in the future. It's not going to change based on set pieces, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see the priority there. For me, I need to watch Werner. It's a personal thing, but I wouldn't put anybody off what he's done. He played against us in the Champions League last year. You can see he's a brilliant player. I think his best position is probably the same as Pulisic's, actually, although he played a role very differently. I think that's probably where he's best. But I think with what you've got in support, mate, he's going to end up through the middle. Yeah. No doubt about it. I don't think we're going to get to the point where he's going, do you know what? I want to play Giroud today. I'm going to leave Pulisic out, or all them attacking midfield players you got to bring on anyway. Like you said, at the moment, we're probably looking at a position where you got like Mount, Loftus-Cheek, Barkley, etc., all sitting on the bench, unless a few of them are sold.
Yeah. Well, the Athletic were reporting that Frank Lampard said to him that he was signed to play through the middle. I have no doubts that that's going to be his spot there.
But you just to clarify, you think he probably might? Well, you think he may not play that position in game week 1, essentially?
Yeah, possibly, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, to be honest.
I think if the intention is to play him through the middle and play Hudson-Odoi, mate.
Yeah, it's definitely. We started that against Brighton, didn't we? They played, so we'll have to see what happens.
Who's the best midfield two then? Because we basically know what the best team is in your opinion now. What would be the midfield two from? I can't even list all them options, mate.
I know, yeah. It's Kante and Kovacic for me. I don't really want to see Jorginho playing in midfield, to be honest. I could put Gilmour in. I'm a big fan of Gilmour, but it'd be hard to say that you're leaving Kante on your bench to bring in Gilmour, to be honest. So I think it's got to be those two. It's possible we will play a 4-3-3 with Havertz deeper, but I just think that's such a waste of his talent. I just can't see it.
Yeah, plus you want Pulisic and Ziyech being able to get close to the front man as well, which I think linking of Havertz in a more advanced position actually would aid that, in my opinion. I agree. You get Kovacic and Kante sitting there. They've got very different attributes. I think they complement quite well. You don't need goals from them two. It supports the idea of getting the likes of Chilwell and James further forward from fullback, which when Ziyech wants to step inside so much is another reason why I think people keep thinking about Reece James, thinking, I can see him bombing on. Chilwell, we know, likes to do that because he's not great going the other way. Or so everyone from Leicester keeps telling us anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in my opinion, you are a good goalkeeper away from potentially challenging for the title, mate. Yeah, but I genuinely think, to be honest, more than anything, mate, on A, what I've seen, but B, more importantly, what you tell me, that it's just not possible unless you do.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Just quickly on the midfield too. I like the defensive work rate of both of them and Jorginho as well. It's just the problem is that Kovacic is the sort of player that likes to wander around the pitch a bit, and Kante isn't a defensive midfielder. He's a box-to-box midfielder that likes to disrupt. And we just need a bit more now where they'll protect the centre-backs, they'll drop back. We have quite a bit of a problem with attackers that sort of delay their run, enter the box a bit later, because they're not picked up by our midfielders at the moment. That's a big issue now. So we need sort of someone like Kante doing that a bit more. Once we get that bit of protection going, once we've got...
I see where this is going. We need a defensive midfielder.
No.
He's trying to win a league title, mate. Not by someone through his bench.
There's Rice would get in that team, I reckon.
I want Rice at centre back, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I can see that as well. By the way,
I think he's got all the makings of being a really good centre back. To be honest, I think he's got that exact sort of mindset that we need.
It reminds me of a young Eric Dyer. I'm not joking. Holding midfield, going back to centre half, started centre back, holding midfield, gets in the England team, goes back to centre half, leads his team to the title. That's Declan Rice in a few years, just following in Eric Dyer's footsteps, mate.
We just need his brother in the stands, one of the games, and we need Dyer to get up there and do that.
What price is Declan Rice? 5 million. Moving on. I can see that, actually.
What James is saying, I echo with the goalkeeper. The other thing is, James mentioned it earlier, that there'll be the odd game where you blank and you don't score, like we've seen with other big teams. But I also reckon there's going to be a couple of sides that are going to get a spanking off you guys this year, a 6 or 7, and if there is a 5 or 6 in there, that's the week I want to make sure I've got my armband on a Chelsea player, and I can see it. I mean, one of the newly promoted sides, or somebody just has an off day, and your guys go off. If you race into an early 2 or 3-0 lead, that's going to be a game that could end up with cricket scores type stuff going on. And I want to make sure I've got that Chelsea asset captain that week for sure.
Yeah, it might be a little bit tricky predicting when those big wins are going to come up, I think. I'm not sure it'll necessarily come up exactly when we think it will. But I mean, last season we had probably one player on the pitch that was like a serious proven goal scorer. And next season we're looking at having 3 plus Ziyech, possibly call that 4 if you want. It's a big change for us, and it's something that we need badly.
Yeah, them 2 wins are probably when you play against us, mate. Would help if when we play you this year, we decide to cross the halfway line and have a shot. That might be helpful as well. The other just point I wanted to make on Chelsea, and it's not anything anybody should be worried about now, but I think it's highlighted just from this whole conversation about the amount of assets there are available. When the Champions League restarts, it's Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, Champions League every week over a 3-week period, then internationals, then again for 3 weeks. In between, what's that, game weeks? I think it's 5 to 12 or something, roughly. You're going to get rotation in that period. Not just for Chelsea, but for a lot of sides as well. But I feel like for Chelsea, possibly even more so. You say you get a period where, I don't know, you've got Bayern and the best 3rd seed or something on consecutive midweeks. That weekend league game is going to look, you guess away in terms of what the rotation will be. And Lampard's going to want to give minutes to people like Mason Mount, etc. He's not just going to leave him out to dry. So there's also a chance these guys like Ziyech, Pulisic, are they going to play 90 minutes often? Possibly not, when you've got so many attacking changes you can make. So just something to be aware of. But it shouldn't be a threat on game week 1.
Yeah, I'd echo that completely. There's no question that you're going to see rotations. I'm less worried about subs, to be honest. I think they'll come sort of 70th, 80th minute of the game, and I'm less stressed about that. It's not sort of like a Jota situation there. But you're going to see players getting benched and stuff, because you've got to keep your first 11 fit, right? And when you've got so many backups, there's no reason not to. So, yeah, I fully agree on that.
This year, as a wider conversation, we always get it this year, Champions League draw, how's it going to affect, Premier League games? And quite often when the draw's made, it might be that the fixtures don't matter till around about game week 13, 14. This time, it might need some planning, actually. So look at weeks where you go, there's going to be an issue there over a 2-week period for someone here. And actually, having the easiest fixture might not necessarily be the good thing for some of them Champions League teams, particularly. I think for the Europa League teams, less of a problem. But for some of the Champions League teams, it could be an issue. Although Bruno Fernandes will always play for Manchester United until Van der Beek takes his place.
I think you've got to be careful about not overthinking it, though.
Yeah, it's very true.
You've got to keep picking your strongest team, not messing about, not putting off transfers because you're worried, maybe you won't play next week or something. Got to make those transfers stick, because otherwise you're going to be crying when you see them.
No, I get that, but if I was thinking of wildcard in game week 4, which I'm pretty sure I won't be, and then it starts again straight away between game weeks 5 and 6, and you've got, like I said, I don't know, Bayern Munich and Atalanta or something, for example, and a Premier League game in the middle, I've probably got to be a bit concerned about that sort of thing, I would think. You've got to be... What I'm saying is, where you're planning to captain the player, for example, if you think, it's West Brom, I'm definitely captain Werner, I bet when it gets there, you'll probably be scared of it, is the point. It's a wider conversation. It doesn't just relate to Chelsea anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there's still the draw to take place and all of that kind of stuff to wait and see.
I'm already having all these European draws, aren't I? So I'm so excited for it. You know, Bulgaria, Romania, all these glorious places that I'm being denied from access to, Ted. I'm gutted.
Well, at least you've got European football now.
Yeah.
Close.
Thanks, mate.
Ted, thanks for joining us, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing your team this year. Obviously, when City burst onto the scene with buying all the players and creating that stuff, but my team are in a different league. So for me to watch other teams develop and play good football and attacking football was just a pleasure. So touch wood, fingers crossed, your boys can come together and do that and make the league more competitive. The more competitive the league, the better, in my opinion, in every which way. So looking forward to seeing it. But when we play you, hopefully we stand a little bit of a chance. There we go. James, anything more to add? Are we done with?
No, I think
Blue
they
side
are
of London.
Probably the most interesting team at the start of this season. Absolute must watch in those first few game weeks. Must watch. And I think the thrilling thing for you, Ted, is I think it's going to be quite exciting as well.
Yeah, really looking forward to this.
Good stuff. Enjoy the season.
I would say good luck, but every time I say that to you, you fucking lose.
James, 19 down, 1 to go. With Correspondence Week, we are almost at the end, and we have new correspondents, newly promoted team, the last of our Correspondent Week pods to go out. Who have we got coming, James?
We've got Gemma at Gemma Baggies joining us to talk about them Baggies, West Bromwich Albion. Hopefully Harrison will pop by and maybe say hello as well.
Good stuff. Excellent. For everybody that's enjoyed Correspondence Week, do make sure that you're subscribed wherever you're listening to the podcast, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, etc. And head over to Twitter at Planet FPL Pod, where you can see all the correspondence. If you want to follow Ted, if you don't already, at Rotation FPL is where you can find him tweeting about FPL, Chelsea, and everything to do with football. Other than that, as always, thank you for joining us this week. Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, Ted. Cue music, please, man child.